TTC, Niner Empire, what's good? It's your boy, Danny G. TV, the Niners got the Philadelphia Eagles tomorrow. Shout out to all the Eagle fans on here. Some of them I've known for years. PR52 is a legendary TTC video maker that I've known for 11 plus years. Shout out to him. Shout out to Rob, aka Eagles Fan for Life 17, who's not currently active on here, but he's kind of a legend himself in the TTC, and he's hilarious. And I met him in New York City last year, so shout out to him. Shout out to EDP445. He's a YouTube legend that gets millions and millions of views and is on a bunch of the random memes you'll see on Twitter all the time. He's not even in the TTC, but he's a YouTube legend, and he started right up here. Right in kind of the TTC little community, even though he never really claimed to be part of it. But as we said at the point, shout out to Desert Eagle as well, Nitro Freak, any Eagle fans out there. This is the game the Niners should easily win, but it's also a game they cannot let be a trap game. It's any given Sunday. Just last week, the Detroit Lions helped out the Niners by beating the 2-0 Arizona Cardinals. And if the Cowboys would have just beaten the Seahawks, which they came somewhat close to doing, then all these teams in the NFC West would all be 2-1, and the Niners would have an opportunity to take a lead in the division. But that's not what happened. The Seahawks are 3-0, and all the other teams are 2-1. But this Eagles game is a game they should easily win because, well, the Eagles, week 1, they lose, I believe it was like 27-17 to the Washington football team. And then week 2, they lose to the Rams. And then just last week, they tie 23-23 with the Cincinnati Bengals. So the Eagles, they're not really a good team. They still got weapons. They won the NFC East last year. It's a game the Niners cannot overlook. In fact, well, every game from here on out basically is kind of a must-win because of how tight this NFC West is. But what I mainly wanted to talk about in this video was the so-called quarterback controversy between Jimmy Garoppolo and Nick Mullens. Now, I'm a Jimmy Garoppolo fan. Let me just say it right there. And I expect Jimmy Garoppolo to remain the starter of the 49ers this year. And Kyle Shanahan already confirmed this week that that scenario does not exist, that Jimmy will remain the starter. And I expect that to remain the case. But there is one small scenario where that could not be the case. And that's if when Jimmy returns, of course, Nick's going to start the Eagle game. So let's say Jimmy struggles hardcore in the Dolphins game and in the Rams game, and that's regardless if they win or lose. Then I can see the Niners maybe trying out Nick Mullens to be the starter for at least a little bit. Because there are a few things that Nick Mullens, I think, does better than Jimmy Garoppolo. The main thing, I think, is when you see Jimmy under pressure in the pocket sometimes, a lot of times it looks like he has nowhere to throw, and he just looks scared. And week 1 against the Cardinals is a prime example of that. Yes, he was missing a lot of key receivers, but on that last drive, he could have thrown the game-winning touchdown pass, and he just did not. He just looked lost, and that Cardinals defensive line just ate him alive. And then they got Nick Mullens, who a lot of times looks like he's poised when he's under center. Even when he's under pressure, he's able to let his arm flow and just complete passes and look better. I'm not saying he's a better quarterback than Jimmy G, but he at times looks better. And I am a big fan of Nick Mullens, the way he plays, and regardless of if he ends up being our starter eventually or not, him playing well, it helps the Niners for 2 reasons. It gives them just a good backup, which is always good to have when your starter can be injury prone like Jimmy G kind of is. And also, it gives them trade value if they ever are looking to make a big trade with a team that needs a quarterback. They could do that because Nick Mullens is capable of being a starting quarterback on another team. But again, the only way I see Nick Mullens actually becoming the starter is if Jimmy just struggles, which I don't expect. I expect Jimmy to actually have a lights-out game when we see him next against the Dolphins. I do. But there's a chance that might not happen. There's a chance that Jimmy might still struggle. Now, let me take you back to the playoffs last year, the postseason, the Vikings game. The only touchdown pass he threw the whole playoffs was the one in the divisional game against the Vikings to Kendrick Bourne. That was it. In the second half of that Vikings game, they basically just stopped throwing the ball at all. They just ran it basically the whole time. Then in the Packer game, in the NFC Championship game, Jimmy only threw the ball 8 times. And of course, they destroyed the Packers with Raheem Mostert's 4 rushing touchdowns. But they just relied on their running game, and they were able to beat the Packers. Then in the Super Bowl, you saw way more of the running game as you would expect in the first half. And then when Jimmy started to try to throw a lot in the second half, he struggled a lot. He missed that pass, that long throw to Emmanuel Sanders, which could have ended up being the game-winning touchdown. He missed a lot of key throws. There's no doubt about it. And Kyle Shanahan just did not trust him to throw, first because he didn't think that he didn't have confidence in him. It seems like Kyle's offense runs differently with Nick Mullens. It seems like Kyle trusts Nick more to throw, and it seems like that Nick, like I said, is better at that deep ball. He's better at throwing downfield. Now, Jimmy proved he's capable of doing that last year, but so far in the postseason last year and in week 1 against the Cardinals, we did not really see that much from Jimmy. We saw Jimmy miss a lot of throws. Now, yes, Nick Mullens was only playing the Giants that don't have a good defense. Yes. And, he played against the Jets too. The Eagles have a better defense. So tomorrow is going to be the perfect test for Nick Mullens to see how well he can do against a better team. Now, Nick in 2018 looked really good his first game that he started against the Raiders. And he lost to the New York Giants and threw a few interceptions in November of 2018 also. But he also looked somewhat good in that game too. And he struggled against, I believe it was in that Bears game where he messed up at the end. I honestly forget how, but I remember Nick Mullens cost the Niners a meaningless game in 2018 as well. You've seen a lot of improvement from Nick Mullens. You see him fix those mistakes that he's made. I'm not going to say he's not going to throw any interceptions at all again, but he has not thrown an interception in either of those 2 games against the Jets or against the Giants. So Nick just looks like he's improved dramatically from 2018. So I don't expect Nick to be the starter, but I would not be surprised if Jimmy just starts to struggle. If we see him, like let's say we see him start the Dolphins game and then he misses a lot of throws. They still win because of the running game, but he just struggles. Then we'll see him against the Rams, and he'll just struggle in that game too. If that were, I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but I'm just imagine the scenario. Then there's no reason why Kyle Shanahan shouldn't make a move and make Nick the starter, at least for a little bit. Maybe not permanently, but at least make Nick the starter if Jimmy struggles. Some people think this is gonna be like Alex Smith and Colin Kaepernick. It's not. Now, Alex Smith was having I think he led the NFC in passing yards in 2012 before he got injured and before Kaepernick took over. I think he did. So Alex Smith looked really well in 2012. But also, Alex Smith has been the quarterback there for years, and he struggled a lot. So I think that was a primary reason that we saw Kaepernick end up being the starter, because Jim Harbaugh just thought that he was better fit at leading the Niners to the promised land. And he did end up leading them to the Super Bowl. So, the only reason why, now Kyle did say that Jamie's going to remain the starter. The only reason I could see Kyle changing his mind is if he ends up thinking that Nick Mullens is better to lead this offense with, which we're not to that point yet. And Jimmy gets paid way, way too much for them to really realistically make Nick permanently the starter. So, but what Jimmy needs to do when he comes back, when we see him against the Dolphins next, because I expect Nick to have a monster game tomorrow and beat the Eagles and look really good, and more people are going to want him to be the starter. What Jimmy needs to do is when we see him next, we need to see a Jimmy that's not scared in the pocket, that's more poised, kind of like Nick is, and we need to see more consistency from him. We need to see Kyle trust him more. We need to see them pass the ball more. Yes, the running game is key. Raheem Mostert should be back in that Dolphins game, by the way, I believe. And Jerick McKinnon and Tevin Coleman, their running game is pretty damn good, of course. So I expect them to run the ball more. But when we see Jimmy back under center, we need to see more consistency. We need to see more deep balls that get completed. And we just need to see more accuracy. I mean, it's amazing. Think about this. Nick Mullens made Ross Dwelley look as good as George Kittle last week. He truly did. With Ross Dwelley, Trent Taylor, and Kendrick Bourne, Nick Mullens looked lights out. And tomorrow he's going to have George Kittle and Deebo Samuel back. So what do you expect from Nick tomorrow? Do you expect him to continue looking good, or do you expect him to maybe regress a little bit against the Eagles? Let me know what you think below. Anyway, that's all I got. Danny G is out. Niner Empire, one team, one family, one goal. I'm out. Peace!